Okay, hello, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for attending for the showcase today. So the webinar today will be related with Network as a Service, which is NAS and openNaaS, and how to tailor GÉANT services or in general network services, specifically for national, for NRENs and customers. So I will kindly ask you to forget about the email during the last 25 minutes. I expect also not to be just me speaking, but also in case you, as Jim said, in case you may have any question or any doubt you would like to discuss, please raise your hand and I will be very happy to answer them. So I will just uh, briefly introduce myself. I'm Jose Aznar. I work for Dacat Foundation. We've been since several years working for also in the context of GÉANT, and my main activities are around services. I know what it's about with Network as a Service, with NFB and SDN technologies, and specifically focus on network connectivity services. I'm also having also a very special interest on making the people's life easier, very pragmatic sense of how to work, trying to bring these specific technologies to real services, to the real world. Okay, so the session today, just in a 20 seconds presentation, will be about how to shape network services, how can we shape network services which address very specific issues that you may experience in your networks, and how this has been how we are doing this from the GRI2 task 2 in GÉANT. And later on, after explaining this, I will briefly go through openNaaS tool. Remind please that in some weeks we will have a dedicated training for the openNaaS tool, so that it will be explained further details. I will be here providing just a brief touch. And then we will go with a practical showcase that we implemented together with Sursara, and that will be all. So in the end, we will try to explain how we can tailor network services and adapt and customize them to your own needs. So the first question is, why would we treat the network as a service? Why this concept of network as a service, which is driving the GRA2 task 2? Mainly because uh, services are not just, these network services are not just not providing end-to-end connectivity. And these are not just services that can be offered to end users such as NOC operators, people working at university campus, or to be used also by software developers. But there are also some network functionalities, requirements, and experiences that can be used to be provided as a service. And we can, for instance, work on shaping network functions virtualization to compose other services. We can also integrate the network part with other cloud platforms, as such it is the case of OpenStack or OpenNebula, or try to integrate the connectivity services with other network platforms such as the end controllers and so on. And service composition and service orchestration, especially in terms of networking, it's also one of the services that we can be offering here. So this is a kind of answer to this why network as a service. How does we justify this? And what would you consider to be offered as a network as a service? Well, here I would like you to write in the chat in case you may have any suggestion, or what would you consider to be offered as network as a service. I will stop talking during 30 seconds. If you put something in the chat, I will be happy to read it. And if not, I will be providing later on some examples of them. Just 30 seconds from now. Yeah, that could be a good option to start with network design. That could be offered as a service. Any other potential item or circumstance that could be offered as a service? Yeah, please don't be shy. This is not an exam, just trying to be sure that you are following me. Expensive resource sharing facilities. Well, I will just put some examples of what we have been working around and what could be offered as network services. We have, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, we have the typical on-demand connectivity service, the traditional one, just to provide connectivity, well, in a dynamic way. That will be, of course, desirable. Also, network virtualization service to be able to virtualize the network infrastructure to be used, to be consumed by some other high-level services on top of it would be also an example. To abstract the network service infrastructure to hide the complexity of some network resources, which are not easy to be handled by all the public or by all the tenants and users. We have also the possibility to shape NFVs, network virtualization functions, and compose and orchestrate more complex services. One example of this is the virtual CPE use case. Also to provide a holistic integrated approach for network management, which this means not only to consider the core network of an operator, but also try to glue this part of the network to data center networks or to other segments networks, which are also part of the end-to-end solution. Then we have, for instance, for intra data center networking, to be able to provide an integrated network administration solution. Also some items in terms of network security, but now comes the most important one. In the end, you name the service, okay? You specify what is the issue you detected, what would you like to enhance or to make more automatically or to make more dynamic. So this is what we are trained to shape here with these network services. So we just introduced the concept of why network as a service. We justify why network as a service. And now in this second part of the webinar, I will just provide a short context on how we are organizing the work within GÉANT 3+ project. So we have a 3-step workaround, which is the motivation, the work, and the key target. The motivation is what I just introduced in the previous section, which is to impact your network service and try to make your life easier by introducing these features of automation, of dynamicity within the network services you are providing. The work is to investigate around this network as a service concept and as a new management and provisioning model for NREN services, and trying to leverage current most trendy technologies such as SDN, NFV, cloud infrastructure platforms, and so on. And the key target, the key outcome of this task is to produce testbeds or showcases that enable to prove and validate the research areas and the different services we are promoting from here, and be able to progress with them to bring some pre-production or even a production services, if it will be the case. That will be, of course, the most desirable case. So the organization is around these how, why, and target items. We have requirements. We have studied some requirements that some of already available network services may comprise. This has enabled us to drive the prototype, to learn some lessons, and to later on leverage on the research areas. The target of these requirements to be able to map them into technologies, and lastly, to turn them into use cases and services. Then we have different research areas we have been working around, areas of relevance for the NREN community, areas of relevance for you, which are being discussed in a lot of forums today, and also hot technologies. Why? Because Network as a Service can leverage of these research areas to compose these services and showcases. And this is precisely the use cases, the last point on how our work is organized. The use cases are the representations, the mean we have to show the services. The showcases do not try to invent the wheel, let's be clear. These are just specific solutions to very concrete problems experienced by you guys, by NRENs guys. And the use cases definition enable us to define the workflows of the services. And in the end, this is the tangible way we have to show the outcomes of our work. So just a brief touch on the requirements. We organized around the use cases some templates in which we provided a full description of the requirements, functional and non-functional one, around the scenario and the goal of each of the use cases we define it. Besides, as I introduced before, we have some research areas of interest. Here we have listed the most important ones. We have SDN, we have NFV, we have items related with security. We have this management as a service term, which is also a very important one. We have focus also in the cloud environment. We have also work with information modeling to enable to abstract the network complexity. And of course, this feature of network virtualization and virtualization techniques is a very important one. So all these research areas have been, we have been working with them in the context of the GÉANT 3+ project in order to map them to the use cases and be able to produce the showcases. So here we find the different use cases that we have been working on. We have the virtual CPE, which I believe is already well known by the community. We have easy. We have, okay, I cannot. We have the IP network on demand use case, which is how to provide overlay networks. We have the GridNet use case, which is a use case which leans on virtualization and an algorithm working on top of the network so that it provides with the best end-to-end path based on green parameters, trying to save energy while providing the path. We have network on demand, which is an extension of IP network on demand use case. And we have the data center administration use case that I will introduce later on as the showcase, the practical showcase I will be showing to you. And as you see here, this is how the different research areas have been applied approximately to the different use cases, also making use of the requirements. So I repeat, very important, requirements, research areas, and use cases are the key drivers to define the network as a service showcases. So just a quick question to stop here and be sure you are all following me. What is the relevant task outcome from this that we can retrieve from what I explained in section 2? Is it the requirements compilation? Are these the lessons learned from the research areas? Number 3, the showcases implemented, or is it all of them? I would like you to write in the chat. I would like you to write in the chat which option you believe it's the correct one. It's an easy one, so please go ahead and type 1, 2, 3, or 4. I will wait for 10 seconds. You don't need more for that. So great. Thanks very much for your participation. So, well, the correct answer is that from the perspective of all the work done is number 4. Most of you matched this one. All of them are very important. And I saw that there is one Roman mark as 1 and 2. I must say that the showcases are very important here. It's because they now enable from the research activity to have a tangible outcome of the task. And also why handling this and trying to provide some outputs to the service activities of the GÉANT 3 Plus project, it's important to have some tangible means to hand over to them the outcomes of these tasks. So that's why we said this. Yes, as you said, we don't have enough time during the project to, well, Roman asked if we have the time to implement a real service during the duration of the project. The answer is no, we don't have it, because not a full showcase or not a full service, but we have the time to make some prototypes that leads us to further develop and then to try, in case it's of the interest of any of the partners participated in the project or of a service activity more specifically, to be able to continue the work during the following years and so on. Okay, so yeah, it's a pity that we don't have the time to make a full service and put, of course, in pre-production or production environment, but this is a nice start to trigger this activity. By the end, Roman is asking if by the end of the project, which use case will be implemented. We already have implemented the data center administration use case. We have also the GreenNet use case implemented, and they will be shown, those use cases will be shown during the GÉANT 3 Plus Symposium next week in Athens. The virtual CPU use case is a very nice one, which had been developed before GÉANT 3 Plus started, and we have been promoting new requirements on top of it to refine it. And IP Network on Demand, or its extension, which is Network on Demand, has been scheduled and has been chosen to be developed during GÉANT 4 Plus project in the context of the joint research activity number 2. So yeah, some of them have been implemented as proof of concepts, and some of them will be further developed during the next project. And it's yeah, it's for GÉANT 4 from the research activity perspective, we have a great compromise to try to bring them as pre-production services, and in case if somebody is interested on them, to promote some pilots or services. That will be the question on if it's possible to look at the details about those implementations. I say yes. They are available in the intranet, in the research, in the joint research activity number 2 part of the website. But I will later on provide to you all the link to access the full use cases description, so that you can take a look on it. And of course, any other questions you may have. Great, I will do that. Thank you, Roman, for triggering this. Okay, so number 4 was the correct answer. And I introduced Network as a Service. I introduced that we are defining network services in the context of GÉANT 3 Plus project. And how are we doing this? We bring here the openNaaS platform as the tool to implement as a resource and services management platform to be able to develop this kind of services and be able to bring Network as a Service to real world. So, as I said, there will be a tutorial during the next weeks, the date is not fixed yet, in which we will go we will put hands-on with relevant and practical examples on how to work with openNaaS and develop a small service and so on. But here I just want to provide some hints on openNaaS platform. In a nutshell, this is an infrastructure and management platform which enables all these features you see there: virtualization, orchestration, automation, provisioning, monitoring, and abstraction of the network resources. In the end, mixing all these capabilities or these features enables you to provide different type of services as the one we explained before. Here you have the logo of openNaaS and also the link in case you are curious and you want to take a look up there. The openNaaS was founded some time ago in the context of the FP7 Manticore project. The ones you see there are the former partners of the openNaaS community. Some of them already are not there no more, but especially in the context of GÉANT 3+ project, we have now a lot of people joining our mailing list as developers or as or as users or product owners, service owners. We have Sursara, we have University of Murcia, University of Amsterdam, the rest of the partners of T2 of the activity of the project. And all together we are trying to fix this type of services. The main features of openNaaS is that it enables you with a secure, robust and flexible operating system framework to compose your services. Security is a very important feature here. It enables to orchestrate and compose services. It's not only about one service or another service or a third service, but also enables you to compose all of these services to orchestrate more complex one and to be able to offer a wider offer of services. And then we have, the abstraction and virtualization features, which are the basis of openNaaS. A very important one, open and accessible interfaces to build tailoring and visualization platforms. Okay, openNaaS is extensible. You can plug in or you can interconnect to other platforms to enrich the offering they have in terms of network services, and also automation of processes for an efficient service chaining is an important feature here. As I say, some general features and some platform aspects with regards to technologies, platforms, and principles. We work mainly around this network virtualization function, network as a service, and SDN technologies. The platform can be used by any network provider, as NRENs, as service providers, infrastructure providers, and also educational institutions which have some networking resources, we have some networking issues, and want to put on top of that openNaaS platform to enhance the experience of the network services. And the principles on which openNaaS leans are the open source, device virtualization, the possibility to custom almost everything in terms of network services, and an important one also, which is vendor independent. It doesn't matter the vendor you have below, the virtualization and abstraction features enables you to work on top of it as if in an homogeneous way, without having to take care on which vendor is providing the devices for your network. Oh, sorry. Well, here there are some platform concepts that I already mentioned before, so I will just skip this one, just to avoid too much letter here. So openNaaS is built around services and resources. These are the main components of the openNaaS. As I said, this is just a very brief touch, okay? During the openNaaS training, this will be further explained. But there is a core. Anyone who downloads an instance of openNaaS has a core resource which already integrates some services which are around the core, the management of root resources, management of the resource tree, which is the internal architecture of and infrastructure of openNaaS, and the publication of REST APIs for the services. So any user, any developer which wants to create a new service on top of openNaaS, automatically when they download an openNaaS instance, they will get this core. On top of it, you can build, you can extend with your own resources. In this slide, you can see an example, which is to implement a router as a resource. So you have the core resource, which is called the router, and around it you have also the typical services that you can implement or that you would like to have for a router. Here we have, for instance, a Netconf client provider, which is a client that enables to work on top of the physical resources, because openNaaS in the end is going to talk to the different resources you have in the network. There must be a communication. In this case, in this example, we have a Netconf client because we work it on top of Juniper devices. But in case you will have to work with other vendor devices, you could be able to develop the client to work with these other vendors' resources. You have also services as provisioning of static routes, the management of the interfaces and the configuration of a router, and the communication with the physical device. And this is another example of a resource. This is a sub-resource of the router, which is just an interface. And this enables you to work with any of the options that you may have for an interface. As for example, some services have as to assign an IP or establish VLAN tagging. Of course, IP assignment includes to create an IP, to remove the IP of the port, to change it, and all these options. And the same for VLAN tagging. Okay, so that in the end you have this resource tree, which is how openNaaS is structured inside. But for the example I just put, we will have the core managing different routers of your network, and each of the routers at the same time would be managing the interfaces they have created for these routers. In case you want to add additional interfaces, you would just create another interface resource and attach it to the router you want to use it. Okay? A brief touch on the involved technologies. The platform is based in Java. We use the specification of OSGI 4.3, so the modular system to implement the component model, and which enables to plug in and plug out any resource you want in your network by doing this hot. Apache Karaf is the implementation that we use for to provide the different modules based on the OSGI specification. And then we also use Apache to be able to offer this as web services, so that you can access openNaaS platform by means of web services. And then for management purpose, we use Maven 3 and Git for the review of the different versions and to organize the work. Okay, so to be done, yeah, this was just a very brief touch on the specification of openNaaS. I hope you have the time during the next weeks when we have the training to join in and to learn more, specifically for developers and people who wants to see just how to implement a dumb resource or a very easy resource, how it's done in this tutorial, and be able to use the platform that it's in the end what we want you to use. So finally, as I told you, I will show you now this relevant showcase, which is the data center administration showcase we developed. I would like to thank very much to the people from Surfsara, to Eric Reuter, which is attending. Thank you, Eric, because he has been working with us very closely to promote this use case and setting up the environment. So thank you very much for that. So we talk, and he told me, hey, Jose, I have a problem here. The problem is that periodically we may be including new resources, new devices in our data center administration network. And okay, this consumes time to us because we have to learn how to configure the network devices. We have to dedicate time for that. And this is a lot of time which consumes to us. And do you think we could put openNaaS on top of it to solve this somehow? Because it's about 10% of our time, which takes for us a month to make some kinds of configuration in our network resources. Okay, so we discuss it, we talk about it, and we end up with some goals and objectives for the specific showcase. Okay, not for the full service, I repeat, and coming back to Roman's comment, but at least some goals that we are able to work on during GÉANT 3+. So the goal, to simplify the administration of the operational functions of SourceARA, easy to deploy, easy to configure, easy to manage. This is how the solution based on openNaaS should be. And some objectives, to unify the way to configure data center networking resources, to be flexible, not requiring too much management effort, and avoid to impact the service which is already running there. So the solution is based on openNaaS. Instead of having one network management system per each of the different network resources you may have in your data center, why don't we introduce openNaaS and we create a virtualization management layer which also enables you to have a better control and turn the resources. You no longer will be managing the physical resources themselves, but virtual resources, and control these resources. And also it will enable you the possibility to deploy additional virtual function networks to be merged with your network service and enrich the offer you can provide, so that you no longer have all your resources become homogeneous. So openNaaS is the solution that we chose to do this showcase. And now I'm going to show the demo. This is a brief touch on the scenario. We have some physical network elements that SourceARA has set for us. We put the openNaaS server working on top of them, and by means of the, sorry, one second, and this is the logical view of the showcase. And from the openNaaS web portal, we are able to, as a user or as an administration, to handle these network resources. So please, Jimmy, if you could now change the screen to put the demonstrator.
That's it now, yeah.
Okay, sorry for this tunnel effect, guys. Okay, so here we have the web service that enables us to access the showcase. And one second, please. So sorry about this. So the first thing the actions that we have enabled now in this demonstrator are to show the topology, show the resources, show the network VLANs, and show the queues. So we have now just SourceARA enable us 3 switches. These are real switches that they have in their facilities, and we can see the status of each of the links by just scrolling the mouse on top of the different lines, and we can access any of these resources. Okay. If you go inside there, you can see several options which have been enabled. As the interface name, the interface description, to be able to set different IP addresses, the status, and so on. So the good thing of this is that it doesn't matter if you have a Junos, a Cisco, a Brocat device. You will have at any time for your switch, in this case, this screen, so that it will be easier for you to handle and very much in an homogeneous way. So I'm just going to make an example to stop one of the I'm going to stop one interface. If you see, now it's enabled. I'm going to shut down it. Okay, and now we have one in the queue of the actions to be executed by openNaaS. We have one action which is to configure the interface status. So I just have to execute the queue, and openNaaS is going to work on top of this switch number 1 in order to tear down the interface. Okay, it is working. Let's wait a minute. And as you can see now, the interface GE number 9, the routing interface number 1 is stopped. Okay. Also change the specification of the interface name. You could also set IPv4 or IPv6 addresses. You could also create aggregate ports. As you can see, we have an aggregate interface unit and so on. And you just have to create the action. You have the possibility to queue several actions and then execute the queue in order to see them. This is another view of the resources. Instead of having the topology, which is much more nicer, you have this view, and you have also the possibility to see the different VLANs that have been established in this router, and also to add VLANs, to change them, to change the description, ID, set IPv4 or IPv6 addresses. You could also create aggregate ports. As you can see, we have an aggregate interface unit and so on. And you just have to create the action. You have the possibility to queue several actions and then execute the queue in order to see them. This is another view of the resources. Instead of having the topology, which is much more nicer, you have this view, and you have also the possibility to see the different VLANs that have been established in this router, and also to add VLANs, to change them, to change the description, the ID, and where it's configured. And well, I would like to show you, now you see just one last demonstration, that here we have a link between these two switches, switch 2 and switch 1 lab, so that by identifying we can here identify its GE number 3 interface, so that I'm going to tear down this interface, which is this one, and you will see that by executing the queue, we are tearing down this interface, so the link should be down when we go back to the topology view. This is just another example of how intuitive is to use it. Just give a second. Okay, now this is stopped, so the topology should not see this the link between them we tear down. So this is just okay. This is all. Jim, if you could please turn to the other, stop sharing the screen and put again the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just an example of some features we can do on top of the resources. And yeah, thanks to Sursara, which wanted to work on that, we could provide this showcase, which is a very interesting one. So just to finalize, what we did, or what we aim to do showing these kind of features is to reduce the administrative load of the network staff, to get a more homogeneous perspective of the network and a better understanding on it, just trying to abstract the complexity of the resource configuration by these interfaces, and it leads in the end to an OpEx reduction, since you are no longer dedicating so much effort to learn how to install or deploy a new resource in your network, but just by means of openNaaS, which auto-discovers this network resource when you plug it into the network. Other openNaaS services and developments we have done so far, we have integrated and we have coordinated with some well-known GÉANT services as Autobahn or Multi-Domain VPN. We have integrated with some cloud management tools as OpenStack, OpenNebula. Also integration with SDN controllers for service composition, currently with Floodlight and OpenDaylight. The implementation of some NFBs, and, well, this is repeated, sorry. And finally, some additional information sources. We have an openNaaS community. You can join, you can request for a service, you can request to add some features, some YouTube videos, and some other demos. So, well, this was intended to have a short brainstorming, but I already took a lot of time, so I will skip this for the tutorial on training openNaaS. And I want to thank you all for your attention. I'm sorry because I spent more time than 25 minutes. I hope you find this interesting, how we create network services starting from requirements, from research areas of interest, and from the openNaaS technology. I hope you like the showcase. And if you have now any questions or you have any doubts, I will be happy to answer them if we have the time. Jim.
Thank you, Jose. If there are any questions, then please just drop them in the chat window, or if you want to use your voice to open up your microphone. And Jose, I think you were going to drop in a link to the documentation. Perhaps you could do that while we're waiting for any questions.
Yeah.
And Roman has one question. He's asking, in case of multi-domain services, should we install an openNaaS instance in each domain, and do they communicate with each other to exchange management information?
Okay, currently the openNaaS deployment is done in a centralized way. So it works for multi-domain, but in the end it will be a hierarchical approach in which openNaaS instance is working centralizing all the intelligence of the network service. So it can work on top of multi-domain multi-domain environments, but not yet in a distributed way, just centralized. He asked about standards for abstraction of resources. What do you exactly mean with these standards? Okay, the language to describe the resources, NML was considered at the very beginning of the development of openNaaS. I don't really know now which the abstraction model we follow for this, but I take note and I will send you all an email with regards this question, because right now I don't know the details on the abstraction model we are making use of. Okay, are there any other questions or suggestions or doubts you would like to clarify?
If not, then are you any closer to that link? Dropping a link into the for the documentation. Is it just on the intranet, or is it searchable?
Well, it's in the intranet. I can provide.
Oh, you've muted yourself, I think.
Sorry, I was saying that just give me just 30 seconds to provide the link, and I will
Okay, so
provide it.
while Jose's grabbing that link, I'll thank you all for coming. If you're interested in that link, just hang around for a few minutes, and it will be in the chat window. Otherwise, you can obviously visit the intranet if you have access to that. And thank Jose for preparing and presenting the showcase. This will be recorded, has been recorded, and I'll put it up onto YouTube in the next couple of days. It's on the GÉANT TV YouTube channel. And yeah, so thanks all for coming, and I'll stop the recording now. You can now speak freely.
Yeah, one last thing, just in case you have any additional questions or anything you want to discuss. In this last slide, you see my contact me, and I will be very happy to provide feedback. I'm going to, in the meantime, I'm going to describe the resources. NML was considered at the very best. In the meantime, I'm going to